Hi everyone, it's me, Kathy, and there's a lot of tension going on in the world today. And we want to ensure that while you are at home, that you have a tension-free experience with your sewing machine. And I'm going to tell you an issue that is common for people with sewing machines, especially people who haven't used their machine in a long time and they forget how to thread their machine and maybe they're not used to dealing with tension. But this is a tip I'm going to give you, and it's one that we see coming in over the counter. People will come in and say, there's something wrong with my bobbin because I'm getting bird's nesting, that mass of thread on the underside of the fabric. I'm getting that it's perfect on top, but on the back there's just all these threads tangled together. Or they'll say, you know, my stitching is perfect on top, but on the underside it feels bumpy. Well, to tell the truth, that's typically not an issue with the bobbin case or the bobbin itself. It's usually not enough needle tension. And think about it. If you don't have enough needle tension, your needle is going to bring that thread down to the underside, and if there's not enough tension to bring it back up, where do you think the threads are going to go? That's right, they're going to go on the underside of the fabric. So how do we avoid this from happening? You always want to make sure that you know how to thread your machine properly and you're hitting all the guides, and make sure that when you put your thread through your tension guide, I like to take it with two hands and floss it through that tension guide to make sure that it's seated properly. Also, when you're threading your machine, as you're threading, always make sure you lift your presser foot up before you even start to thread your machine, because that will open up the tension disc on your machine. These are just some tips to make sure that it's seated properly. Here at Pocono Sewing Back, when you purchase a machine from us, we give you lessons on how to thread your machine to ensure that you are threading it properly. Also, you want to make sure that you are using a good quality thread. A lot of inexpensive no-name threads will be very linty, and how can you tell? If you hold that thread up to the light and you look at it, you can sometimes see areas where it's thinner and thicker. And where do you think that extra lint is going to go? That's right, it's going to go into your machine, and it could end up clogging your tension disc. That happened to me once, to the point where I had no tension and I did have massive bird's nest underneath. Another thing is you want to make sure that your machine is in proper working condition, and the only way to do that is like a car. Make sure you get regular tune-ups. I've been in this situation where people will say, oh, the last time I used my machine it worked perfectly. Well, when was the last time you used it? Oh, about 3 years ago. And I just put it in the closet and I haven't touched it since. I have to tell you something. If you tell me your car was working great 3 years ago and you haven't started it since, that may not be a good thing. And the same is true with sewing machines. You do want to use them, get them out, make sure you're using them on a regular basis, because when they sit, sometimes that's not good for the machine. So all these tips together: number one, regular service; number two, use a good quality thread; and number three, make sure that you are threading your machine correctly and also adjusting your tension to an average tension setting, and you should be getting a fairly good stitch on your fabric.